1993, Will Smith, known at the time for being a rapper and the star of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, not being known as a serious actor or someone on the big screen yet, he called his childhood friend and manager, James Lasseter. And he called him in for a meeting and he said, I quote, JL, I want to be the biggest movie star in the world. And JL said, okay, well, let's figure out what that means. And so he went and got a list of the top 10 movies of all time at the box office, all the successes. And he and I, right, I'm Will Smith right now talking, he and I looked at them, we adjusted for inflation versus dollar value, because we know Will Smith is technical like that. And they looked at all the different variations, and what we found at the center of all of the biggest movies of all time were three things. One, they always had special effects. Two, there were always creatures. And three, there was always a love story. So, from that point on, we started exclusively looking for movies that had special effects, creatures, and love stories. Now, fast forward 30 years later, roughly, from that meeting, Will Smith is one, if not the biggest movie star in the world. And within the movie industry, he's really known for two things: being strategic and being methodical. And I believe that Will Smith approaches everything in his life with methodology and being very focused and being very strategic. And I also believe this is exactly how Will Smith thinks about social media. Now, in less than 3 years of Will Smith, as he says, officially joining social media, which he had a Facebook account, but he officially joined by opening up his Instagram and his YouTube, he's one of the most influential social media users in the world, without question. But you know what we're here to discuss? We're here to discuss, is he currently the greatest social media content creator of today? The greatest, all right? This is big. Now, in order to have this discussion, at first I thought I was going to have this discussion by myself. I was just going to talk to myself on this. But I said, no, let me reach out to some folks who I understand know a lot about social media, know a lot about personal branding, and most importantly, people that I respect. And I immediately, Goldie, I reach out to you. Mike, I reach out to you. And so we've got Goldie Chan here, who, in my opinion, is, I think, I know you're the Oprah of LinkedIn and all these things, but I just think that you're one of the dopest content creators right now on the planet, right? And then we've got my man, Mike Street, who I was just saying before we started, Mike is my Yoda, right? I'm training to be a Jedi, right? Mike is Yoda. He's already there. He could do backflips and all this stuff. Mike knows everything about digital media. So I was like, look, you all have to be my folks that I have a conversation with. All right. So first, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
Definitely.
thank you so much for having us, Paul. What sweet and amazing things to say.
All the truth. All the truth. So now let me just hit you with the big question. All right. So here's actually how I think we should do this is I want to hit you with the big question up top so everybody knows what your perspective is on this topic. And then we'll kind of dial it back and we'll start peeling out, like I'll throw out different things I've observed, and then we'll all just kind of have discussions around this. I've got 7 things that I've observed that Will Smith does, but let me start at the top. What do you think? Is Will Smith the greatest content creator on social media today? Yes or no?
I'll let Goldie go first.
Oh, wow. Mike, throwing me under the bus. This is what Yoda does.
The ladies first.
No, thank you. I love that, Paul, you reached out to me about this because this is a phenomenon, right? I'm going to talk around this, answer this question. He is a social media phenomenon. He has resurrected, I believe he has really resurrected his career, because he's of course known for all these amazing movies. He is a huge action star, but he has come back into the limelight. He has grown his social media following. He has become, I love the R word, relevant again, because he's on social media. So in that way, I do think that he is one of, I like to hedge my bets here, the greatest content creators right now, because what he has done on YouTube is incredibly fascinating. I'm sure we're going to go into it. But what he's doing by jumping individually and strategically onto each platform and then creating content that's tailored. I feel like I always beat people over the head with this, like create content that's tailored to the platform that you are on. And Will Smith definitely does this, and he does this really well. And we've seen it now. If you've tracked him on, once again, YouTube, and he's made quite a splash there with his own birthday, with TikTok, even.
Oh man, his TikToks are incredible.
Incredible. And he obviously has a brilliant team around him, but I do feel that he is that strategician. I love how when you can write out a word, say it out loud. He's the strategy man.
Sorry about that.
Behind, I think, all of this amazing growth that he's had. But yeah, I feel that what's even more important than saying he's the best content creator is he has made himself relevant again. And that is so powerful.
So now, Goldie, I hear all of that. I agree with all of that. But you're my girl on this. So I've got to push you. I have to push you. If you had to say yes or no, right? I feel like I'm moderating a debate almost, right? Because, politicians, they never tell you. If you had to say yes or no, like, what would you say? Yes or no? Because if you say no, I think I understand why, right? Because you follow a lot of, I think the greatest. But what do you think? Yes or no?
Oh, wow. Well, I definitely have to say that in this moment, right? I feel like such a politician answering this in this moment, considering a lot of other factors. Yeah, I will actually go. I will go with this. I will go with yes. I do think that right now he is on fire and creating the kind of content that everyone should be watching. Like if you are a content creator, or even if you're just a huge, marketing and branding nerd, you just love seeing people build really cool brands, he is the one to watch. So I will say yes.
All right, we got a yes. So we have two yeses right now, 2 yeses in the conversation. Now we're going to go to Yoda, who, Yoda likes to flip things up, backflip on people.
So the short answer is no, I do not.
I knew he was going to say no, so I had to say yes.
Oh, no. Okay, hit us with it, Mike. Why? Well, actually, I mean, you don't have to, just because we'll go deeper in a second, right? But just what's your, just general take on the why?
I mean, I feel like, one, he's came in a little late into the social game. Like social media has very much matured over the past years. And, he kind of just started like 2 years ago doing what he's doing, like, with his live stream for his birthday and, the little silly videos that he's been putting out there. But I don't think they're having a cultural impact or even moving his business forward. Because you can look at people like The Rock. The Rock can go to his fan base, and the fan base will come out and see the movie that he's got out. And The Rock puts out a lot of crap movies every year, but he has that fan base that will go see, whatever is he's putting out there. Like, what was the movie? Like, he did a video game movie, Rampage. Nobody saw. I don't think anyone saw that, but his fan base didn't see it. Because they followed him.
All right, Selchuk, who this is his studio, he said he saw it. he saw it.
But and even if we, and there was a lot of backlash around him playing the genie in Aladdin.
Yeah.
And I think I don't think he could have used his social media to kind of counterbalance that, but he was kind of quiet on that to some degree.
Okay.
I mean, but that's Disney.
Yeah. I mean, Disney is going to make money regardless
Right.
of, if the movie is good or bad. But, and Maleficent was great, by the way, the best Disney movie they've ever done.
Yeah. All right.
Um,
Shout out to Disney, right, for that. But this is good. This is no, I adore this, right? This is what makes a conversation, right? We've got different opinions on this. And Goldie, let's see if we could sway Mike as we go down the list. Or maybe Mike sways us. All right. So
Yeah.
let me break
I'm going to
down.
bring out the technical numbers now. So if you want
Exactly. I was waiting.
Mike came with the heat. Mike came prepared.
Man, Mike I know he's ready. He's got like a Bible of stats underneath the camera. So, all right, let's go down the list. There's 7 areas that I want to hit. And then, of course, if there are any other areas you guys want to jump into. It's interesting, Mike, that you mentioned The Rock. Goldie, I know that's your boy. I saw The Rock tweet, right, and included you in the post because you've written about The Rock in Forbes, which is awesome. I want to start with actually that, right? So the first thing that I kind of noticed about Will Smith, and Mike, you mentioned this as well, is that he's late to the game. But what I look at it is he spent. So I saw that in about 2016 or so. Of all people, he was looking at The Rock. And he was like, man, The Rock is actually, because of his social media presence, he's able to demand more at the box office. And Mike, as you were saying, Will Smith was like, man, and The Rock is actually moving people towards watching his films. So Will Smith, I literally think Will Smith, and Will, if you're watching this, correct us, please, right? Will was like, look, I want to be the biggest movie star in the world. I said it back in 1993. The Rock has dethroned me, and he's dethroned me, and he's got these movies that some people say are crap movies. So what's the difference? The difference is his social media presence, which I know, Gold, you could speak to in detail. So he then spent between 2016 and 2017 a full year. Right, so he went back to his manager, James Lasseter. He went to CAA, his agency, and he said, look, I want you all to build, I want you to create a social media plan. We're going to spend a year in diligence. A year, right, before he even jumped on. So let's just stop right there as one point. A, is that something that we should give him kudos for? B, is that something that we as people who are building our brand should even consider? This whole notion of don't just knee-jerk reaction jump on the social. Don't just, okay, I need to do a YouTube video. Oh, I need to get on Facebook. I need to make a post. Is there any lesson there to be learned of let's chill, let's think, let's do diligence, let's do research before we actually start executing our strategy?
I'm going to let Mike start with this one because I know he has some wise words. So,
well, I think one of the things that I wanted to talk about was that in terms of his strategy, even, because he just put a movie out, was it Gemini?
Gemini Man, yeah.
Man, yeah.
So I think, even looking at a lot of the posts on his page, there wasn't a lot of promotion of that movie. And that's where, let's go back to The Rock for 1 second, because the Rock created the blueprint on how to promote a movie because he stole the strategy from Vin Diesel. So if we go back to very early Facebook, Vin Diesel had probably one of the biggest social media followings on his Facebook page.
Okay.
And The Rock, took a look at that and then started to replicate that for his own social media channel. And then as The Rock grew in popularity, more people started to follow him on his other social channels. And The Rock is very, personable on his social media with a lot of the things that he does and the tips that he puts out there. And I think he's really good at pushing a movie on his social channels because, it's fun to have a social channel, but if it's not going to make you money, then why bother? We're all here because we're, in the marketing space. And, a lot of the stuff that we do is to push a product, and these celebrities are product.
Right.
The person who makes the most money on Instagram is the soccer player
Ronaldo.
Christian Ronaldo.
Yeah.
He has 187 million followers. So and if you look at his page, he's got all kind of pretty pictures, but a lot of them are advertising as well. But I think Will Smith, he has to really start to think about, it's like, I can do like stuff with the family, I can be on Red Table Talk, I can be on YouTube, but how do I start to really focus into a strategy to, so when I put out a Gemini Man, I can move, 10 million people to go to the box office to get a ticket, because I don't think the numbers were that high. And I think he didn't even take his own advice, because when we go back and he said, I want to be the biggest movie star in the world, he actually used data to figure out, what were the three key elements that need to be in a script in order for the movie to be high. It was creatures, special effects, and a love story.
Right.
And he was able to do that with stuff like, Men in Black and some of his other Independence Day. The movies that made him big. But now when you start to look at some of the other movies that were out there, they didn't do, they haven't done so well. And that's where The Rock was able to come in. And, The Rock, had a following already from WWE that he was able to bring over to his movie career.
But what about this whole notion of just the diligence? Because, you talked about The Rock looking at Vin Diesel, which I didn't know. That's fascinating. And then replicating what Vin Diesel did and actually, one-upping him. And I think, quite honestly, Will Smith and his team at CAA looked at exactly what The Rock was doing. And they basically said, all right, we need to do that. Do you think that is something like, Goldie, is that something that we should be doing, almost pinpointing, okay, Goldie Chan, that's like that I want to do. I see what she's doing. I should replicate that. Like, is that a smart strategy?
I think that there are two sides to this story, right? One is that, of course, always just do the research so so you're informed. But then there's always early mover advantage. And I have to say that in some ways, The Rock, the way he crafted specifically Instagram, he got a little bit of that early mover advantage, because he took what Vin Diesel did on Facebook, right? And then translated that onto Instagram. And then he's really one of the celebrities to watch on Instagram for what he does well. However, if you get early mover advantage, a lot of times, a lot of this stuff goes out the window because there's no playbook. There's no right way to do it. Or if somebody's doing it right now, say in the first year or two that platform is alive, that doesn't mean that like 2 years in, 3 years in, when it's more mature, that will still be the playbook, because it's still early days. And so that's why I find it really fascinating what Will Smith is doing specifically on TikTok, which is still, to me, an early mover platform, right? But is he doing revolutionary things on Instagram? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that he is reinventing the strategy, the game. He's not reinventing the game at all. What he is doing, to a certain degree, is having success, right? And once again, I'm not also saying that he is having the greatest success, but he is having success across most platforms. And that is really rare, because most people are really great at like one platform. They have a huge following there. That's where their bread and butter is. And then they aren't able to translate that across platforms. And I think it is really interesting that Will Smith and family, because you mentioned Red Table Talk, Mike, so I had to reference that. They're trying to really have a presence across every single platform. And that is tough. That is so tough to be able to have that presence across all different platforms and to do it successfully. So, I mean, my homie is The Rock. So I have to say, like, of course, I love whatever he does on Instagram, because he's writing that action star, relatable playbook on Instagram that everyone is trying to copy right now. But is Will Smith still doing a good job on Instagram? I think so. And I think despite him not moving those marketing dollars, moving that money towards people buying and purchasing his movies, I also wonder, are his end goals different now, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's still in the movies,
Yep.
but maybe it's not just 100% send you to the theaters.
Yeah.
Maybe it's consume this other content.
Yeah, I'm with that. So it's interesting. One is, I'll say this, Mike, it sounds like you're swaying Goldie a little bit though. Because she was really with me in the beginning, and all of a sudden Mike came in, he dropped some of his magic dust, and now she's like, oh, well, hold on for a second, right? So, all right, so this is the battle.
Some of us have to be great Jedi, okay? Some of us we gotta go back and forth between the two forces.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. I've got some numbers that I'm gonna drop in a second, all right, to try to, hold up my man Will Smith. But I will say that the diligence part seems to be interesting to me, because what he was doing in essence was foregoing any bit of early mover advantage, right? Any bit of, he lost like to the algorithms, et cetera, to wait, right? And be kind of strategic and focused in. And this gets to my second point though. My second point is that, and maybe The Rock or others are doing a better job, so please correct me on this, but Will Smith, to me, seems to do an exceptional job at leveraging other people and other people's platform to his advantage on social. Point an example is his announcement for Instagram on the Ellen DeGeneres show, right? And doing that on one of the biggest talk show platforms on the planet. When he came out on YouTube, I saw, is it Lily Singh, right? He leveraged her base to come out with his YouTube account. She had 12 million followers at the time. How he integrates, various YouTube stars or Instagram stars. He's done this, I think, exceptionally well, because you don't necessarily see him, with an A-list actor or actress. He instead selects the platform, who the star is of that particular platform, and then leverages that person to his advantage. And I think that first part of the strategy, right, to your point, Goldie, is that I feel like he has a long-term play here. It's kind of like when he looked at, I'm going to be the biggest movie star. I don't think he was looking at, I'm going to be the biggest movie star in the next 2 years. It's like, no, this is a marathon. Shout out Nipsey Hussle, right? It's a marathon. So he was looking at, okay, over a decade, multiple decades. I think he's looking at social the same way. But the second point is his use of platforms and the stars of various platforms to further his brand. How do we feel about his use of that? And then should we be doing that as we individually are building out our personal brands?
I have to start with this one thing, which is I have heard people say, oh my gosh, look at Will Smith. He's trying to become relevant again. It's like not working. And I'm sure we've maybe all heard this a little bit. Mike is literally saying it. But what I do find interesting is I have met some of these people, and these are the same people that absolutely will post a selfie with Will Smith on their Instagram after saying that they're like, I don't get it. Will Smith is like totally a has-been. And then they will still, if they get that, tweet or Instagram photo with him or whatever it is, they will absolutely be like, oh my gosh, it's Will Smith. So I think that he is still so intelligently leveraging the fact that regardless of if you think he is or is not the biggest movie star in the world, people know that he's still an A-list actor, and those people are gods in our universe, right? Like in our social media influence universe. So he is leveraging that part really intelligently. And I think that he is then using a little bit of that sparkly stardom to impress these top performing platform people like Lily Singh, who just got her own late night talk show. And he's doing it really intelligently, because these people are the top of their platform, but are they an A-list actor in movies, in the movie theater? No.
No. Yeah. Uh-oh. Mike's about to break it down. He's about to break my whole thing down. Go ahead, Mike. What do you have to say?
No, I mean, it's I think from your second point is that, that's a smart strategy, and it's a strategy that's been used, pretty much throughout the dawn of time. It's kind of like an endorsement. It's an endorsement. You have, like if you go back in the day, like old TV shows would have, a lot of the celebrities incorporate the product into the TV show. Like, I watch a lot of I Love Lucy, so like a vitamin would be in the show, and that it would get people talking about that particular product, or a soap. That's how a lot of media is created, because a lot of brands are trying to market product. Even if you look through Will Smith's timeline on his Instagram, I mean, you do see a sprinkling of a lot of different, popular YouTubers and Instagrammers throughout what he's doing, because he's, I call it swagger jacking, because who's not going to want to take a picture with Will Smith? First of all, he's been a celebrity. He has the nostalgia piece with him, because anybody that says in West Philadelphia, born and raised, you automatically know what that is. You'll automatically complete that sentence, because that's something that most of us who are in our 40s and 50s now, I mean, and who pretty much is Will Smith's audience at this point, because he's 51. We know exactly what that is. Or if you hear Parents Just Don't Understand or Summertime,
Right.
Those are instant
classics.
Yeah, those are classics.
I have to fight for the 20s and 30s, though, and say that there are people who are in their 20s right now who are discovering Will Smith.
Yeah.
So then they have the same kind of nostalgia, but obviously in a different way, not in that they experienced that firsthand. They didn't watch Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but they think it is adorable. I'm putting this in air quotes. And they like that feeling of nostalgia, right? They don't have that nostalgia themselves, but they like how retro it is to like Will Smith and like the original person who was in Men in Black and all of this stuff that has kind of cycled back. Of course, this is a trend that has happened before and will happen again.
Right. But you know what?
Also has a lot of social currency. When you look at these days, a lot of people looking at things that are vintage. I mean, if you even look back at the creation of how Instagram came into being, a lot of the, filters, make your pictures look very vintage and very nostalgic, and people like that element of it. And, and someone like Will Smith, who is a very big part of pop culture and a very big part of history, he always will bring that to the table, at whatever age he is. Now, I think what we're seeing now is like, can he translate all of those elements that he has in his favor and bring it to this new frontier, which is social media? Is it, can he become, can he coexist with all of these other people who are all on these platforms and use that to his advantage? And I think he's still trying to figure that out.
Right. And I'm with you on I'm still trying to figure this out. But I'm going to hold down Will Smith being the greatest content creator on social media of today by saying a couple of things. All right. This is just still within point two.
Honestly, the greatest piece of content was that egg last year.
Was who?
The egg.
The egg?
Oh, the famous egg.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. But was who created the egg? Who's the creator?
Some marketing guy.
Yeah. All right. So Will Smith is the second greatest content creator behind some marketing guy on the planet. But here's oh man, there's a siren going here. Actually, we'll keep going through it. There are two things that I pull from this kind of point two, right? The first is that what I love about Will Smith is that his content is not chock full of lots of other A-list celebrities, B-list celebrities, right? What he does, I think, brilliantly is he specifically pinpoints the platform, right? And he pinpoints the stars of the platform. And then he does very, methodically go after them, and he uses his social currency in order to, to woo them into his web, and then he produces content with them. But then on top of it, what he does, and I think this is something that we can all do better, is that he then identifies people who are tagging stuff, hashtag Will Smith or hashtag Fresh Prince or whatever, and he then spotlights them. Whether he gives them a full spotlight on his, on an Instagram post, or he embeds them in a video. But he has done, he has basically created a massive following for many, 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 kind of everyday average folks. And I think the result of that is more and more people consciously wanting to tag Will Smith, consciously trying to build this kind of like community around, let me publish more Will Smith content in the hopes of him tagging or finding me. And then by doing that creates this ripple effect of more people finding out or finding out about Will Smith, not directly through him, but through this kind of second, third tier group. But let me get into point 3. All right. Point 3 here is something that Mike has already refuted, but I want to bring this up. Okay. Mike was talking about how, all right, Will Smith hasn't really been able to leverage this. He didn't leverage, his social platform for Gemini Man. At least, we didn't see in the figures that he did, because it was not a success. But
poor
Aladdin,
Gemini Man.
Yeah, poor Gemini Man. It was not a success. But Aladdin was a massive success, global phenomenon, right? Over $1 billion right out the gate here in the United States. And then, of course, we've got the global figures. But now, here's what I find to be most impressive about Aladdin.
For those of you listening on the podcast, Mike is shaking his head no.
No. Mike, okay, all right, just wait. All right, so now, when he did Aladdin, this was the first time, at least the folks from Westbrook, who is his social media studio, right, company, over 50 people work at this thing. So he's a massive team behind him, right? Massive team. This was the first time that they really put their full energy into promoting a Will Smith production, right, movie. Now, they had started with Bright, right, Netflix, but it was really Aladdin, when they've got drones flying all over the place, right, as he's walking. What the folks at Disney said is that if you look at all of the online views that came from all of the, trailers, everything that Disney put out. Now, this was a $200 million, budget film. So from a marketing standpoint, and Mike, you'll know more about this than anyone, but from a marketing standpoint, what, 20% of that was marketing? And we're talking tens of millions of dollars, all right, was at least allocated towards marketing. We have to presume that a lot of that went to online. When they broke down the numbers, they said that they believe that just from Will Smith's Instagram and his YouTube and his Facebook, that between 12 and 20% of all impressions came from Will Smith's marketing and his promotion, right? And they went on to talk about how you talked about Ronaldo. All right, I got something for you, Mike Street. I got something for you. You said that he's the most followed. Yes, he's the most followed. Does he make the most money? Maybe he makes the most money. But do you know, Mike Street, that Will Smith actually logs more total watch time in minutes on YouTube than anyone else, including Ronaldo, at 1.1 billion watch time minutes on YouTube. So what I'm saying here, in essence, is that this man's, social media entity, promotion, vehicle, etc., is actually just getting popping right now. Like, it's just Aladdin just came out the gate, really. I just saw it like a couple months ago, So I guess my point, I'm trying to win you over, Mike. I'm truly trying to win you over. But my point here is that, think about that. A Disney movie, $200 million budget, almost a quarter of the online impressions came from this man's social media presence. What do we have to say about that?
I do want to see how that compares to Jungle Cruise, which has The Rock. I'd be curious actually to see if The Rock is able to make Jungle Cruise a success, since that is an IP that is really, it's newer. It's not a reboot. Disney's putting quite a bit of budget, it looks like, behind it.
Yeah.
that's just my personal aside, is I would be curious to track that and see in comparison if that also moves the needle. If it's just being online and being a celebrity, or if it's specifically all the content that Will Smith very strategically did. But I will just say once again, I'm going to go back on this, and I said it before, I don't believe necessarily that Will Smith is trying to become a movie star again, if that makes sense. I think that he's pushing very specific projects, not all of his projects, and he has a bigger goal that's not necessarily being a movie star oriented.
Right. Or what about, and I'm sorry, I'm just curious on this is, but well, actually, all right, so Goldie, you're saying that's not the goal, it's some other goal. Mike, I'm curious on your thoughts what the goal is, but as it pertains specifically to, that I think I just want to stay focused on this. Almost a quarter of the views came from social media. And what I think he's doing is he's looking at The Rock and he's saying, man, The Rock is getting, $20 million a film. And then on top of it, he's getting an extra $1 million just to promote these films. So I think he's looking at it, it's like, okay, I'm the $20 million man. I really started all that. So I want my 20 million plus I want to leverage my social media for more money. And here is an example of me going hard in the paint for Aladdin, and look at the results.
So I think the goal is, and Goldie mentioned it earlier, one is to remain relevant, but we have to also look at what's going on inside of, these talent agencies and, 2019 and pretty much moving forward. If you do not have a social media following, they're not going to be interested in you. I've worked for some of these other companies where they manage a lot of top talent, and they're looking very closely at your numbers on social. So you have to have a following these days. You have to have, at the very least, you have to have an Instagram presence, because that means more money for them to sell other things. Like look at Kim Kardashian's, Instagram feed is full of, there's tons of ads that she pushes out there for the different, different things that she's doing.
Yeah. Do you think, Mike? So that's interesting. So you're saying if you're a celebrity, you must have one now. Do you think it's the same thing if you are an entrepreneur? Is it the same thing if you are a professional, working for another company? Does everyone at this point need to have a social media presence?
I think at this point in society, you have to have some social media presence to capacity, especially if you're trying to be a working professional in the world. Because, recruiters are looking at your LinkedIn profile to see, what are you up to? They may be looking at your Facebook to see what are you talking about. So I think having a social media presence to mean that you do exist. It's not 100% necessary, but I would say at the very minimum, have a LinkedIn profile, for your professional work, so that you can showcase that, because a lot of the recruiters and hiring managers are looking at, what your, at least your LinkedIn presence. But I think for people who are entrepreneurs, it does not hurt to have a voice out there for your product. But I think, for these celebrities and for people who are working in media, it's vital to your career to have a presence that's worthwhile, that's sellable. Like, we have, again, Cristiano Ronaldo, world's biggest soccer player. He's making buku dollars. You have Selena Gomez, who's another huge following, Ariana Grande. All of these people have, and you also look at it as like youth culture, and places like TikTok are starting to flourish, and all these other new platforms will eventually come out there. So he has to stay relevant in order to communicate to a new audience who may discover who he is, because he does have a huge backlog of good movies. And, he's about to put out Bad Boys 3,
Right.
So I want to start to see, what's that promotion going to look like? Because you should be starting a little bit now with like some fun clips of him in Martin Lawrence. You know, there's rumors that Martin may come back.
Right.
You know, nostalgia again is big. All these shows have come back.
Right.
You know, so now is the perfect time for someone like a Will Smith to, you know, to take advantage and make money off of the nostalgia piece.
You know, so let me go to point 4 in my lessons. I don't think I've won Mike over on any of these points. And every point, Goldie seems like she's like left my side, right? She's like, well, actually, Paul, you were wrong on this one. All right, so how about this one? Let's see if The Rock does this, because clearly this is The Rock versus Will Smith. Let's see if The Rock does this. He probably does, though. What I've noticed, you said, oh my God. Even Selchuk here is lost my. He's left my side. This is terrible.
I mean, you should have never brought The Rock into the conversation, because when it was just Will Smith, it was fine. But then you brought my homie The Rock into it, and then it's game over.
Oh wow, this is box office. Yeah. All right, so this is just handed to me, but my dear friend Selchuk here, who owns this glorious studio switching board, he just pointed out the actual box office revenue for Aladdin. Just in case Mike wanted to refute me, he was ready. So I'm not even going to drop this. I'm just saying I'm ready. Mike, look, I have notes all over the place. But here's the next thing. Point 4. Okay. Point 4. I went back. I had to look. I had to track this. What Will Smith does every single day on Instagram without fail is he drops a post. The consistency. It's just to me, it blows my mind. I mean, I'm at the point where I just try to like post every week, and I can't even do that all the time. It's terrible. So one, the lesson I pulled is this daily consistency, but also the variation in the content. So, I've noticed he has strict categories that he stays to, and he doesn't deviate from the categories. Right? It could be a promotion on a project. It could be a very serious, hey, here's a reflection on life. It could be just, hey, here's where I am. Take a look so you can experience this cool thing that I'm experiencing in Budapest, wherever it may be. But the fact that he's doing it daily, every day, given his 50 million other jobs, I think I find it to be pretty cool. So I guess now I have 3 questions. A is, does The Rock post every day? B, how do we feel about the importance of consistency, right? And then kind of a C, I'll just put it in B. So how do we feel about consistency, and how important should we be in our consistency in terms of daily content? And this is more of a strategic question for both of you, because, you know, I hate these algorithms. I hate what I see the algorithms doing on every platform, whether it be LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. And it seems like one of the only ways to combat that is A, excellent content, but then B, consistency of the content. But let's go with the first question. Is The Rock posting every day? Is he posting every day?
As far as I know, yes, but that may not be necessarily like every day on Instagram, right? It's definitely at least, though, a post on Instagram and or a tweet that's saying something slightly different.
So can you check that for us? Let's just look at the last week. Let's see if The Rock posts that'll solve it. Actually, he's going to solve it for us. Does The Rock post? So let's just go to B. How important is that consistency, and how important is daily or weekly? Like I feel like I've lost it. I mean, what should we be doing out here?
I mean, I think you have to find your own rhythm that works for your audience. It could be 3 times a week. It could be 5 times a day. It really depends on how much content you can produce. Like for some of my clients, we were doing at least, we would do 120 posts a month. So sometimes that translates out to 2 or 3 posts a day. But it depends on what kind of money you're putting and investing into what you're doing. So you have to find the rhythm that really works for your brand and your company and for your overarching goals. I mean, I feel like for, a makeup brand, putting out one or 2 really good makeup tutorials a week is probably good. Because those take time to produce and get right, because people expect, a level of quality to that. Or if you're doing more of like a talking head, then I think doing that like once a day is probably a good frequency. So you have to really figure out like what works for you.
But Mike, on that though, is let's say you're that the makeup brand that you just mentioned, and you're doing one a week, high quality, right? Because it just takes a lot to produce something high quality. But if you could turn up increase the funding for the video, increase the fund, right, the marketing allocation, is it wise now to move to a place of daily? And actually it's interesting because now that I said daily, I think, oh my God, that's how I found out about Goldie. Is she was doing content every freaking day on LinkedIn. So this is now weird to ask, how important is daily?
I feel very biased personally because, I've worked in-house. I've done digital strategy in-house for all these startups where we were doing content daily or weekly, of course, depending on resources, like Mike said, what we were able to allocate. And when I started doing content for myself, for my personal brand, I did it daily, and I wasn't even intending to do daily because I literally know how hard it is to do daily. So if you had asked me, would I have done 750 or so daily videos in a row, I'd be like, you were absolutely nuts. That's the stupidest thing you could do with your life and your time. But as you know, too, daily has skyrocketed me. But I also have to say, I disclaimed this, which is, of course, I hope that my content was good enough, but I had early mover advantage. So I had daily content on early mover advantage. And you absolutely cannot defeat that because I was there really before the algorithm was there on that particular platform on LinkedIn. So I was able to get my videos out to a ton of people, a lot faster. And now people who are starting, say, even on the platform I'm on, LinkedIn, trying to do daily videos, they're not getting the same kind of views or results, even if their content is high quality, just because the algorithm has changed.
The damn algorithm. Like the algorithm is worse than a venereal disease. Like the algorithm is terrible. I mean, it's just like how. I mean, actually, I can go all over. Let me keep going. Do we know what The Rock?
Yeah, last week he shared every day.
Last week, okay.
And then he misses 2 days.
The week before.
Yeah, but then he shared 4 things in one day. So.
Oh my God, the damn Rock. All right. So
but I want to say this about the algorithm real quick, though. I think,
or just 1 second, Mike, just so you're clear on this is so last week he did post every day. The week prior he missed 1 day, but he also posted. He made up because he posted a bunch of times. So the freaking Rock won again. All right. So Mike, please, on the algorithm.
No, but I think the algorithm can also be a crutch because people learn how to game it. And then you have just a whole bunch. I mean, everybody can't be on the Explorer page. I think the number one thing to do is to make good content, because, we've all heard that Instagram is looking at taking out the likes as a visual note of your analytics, so people can come to your page and not see how many likes a picture has anymore. That's something they've already tested in other countries. So I think just making good content that people will enjoy and creating a following that way is crucial. Because like when I go on YouTube, I never look at the view count of a video. I'm just looking for a good video to watch.
Yeah, that's a good point. I would imagine that stories plays a big role in this with the big push on Instagram with stories, Facebook, obviously. Goldie, that'd be fascinating to find out if LinkedIn is thinking about stories. But what I've noticed, at least Will Smith not do as much, which I'm shocked at, is stories. And to me, it seems like what he's doing. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Is that he is, he kind of stocks up his content. He kind of, getting feedback. He kind of, it's like he'll shoot massively for a fixed period of time, and then he'll drip it out over time. And so therefore, in the stories, he's not giving us the stories because his focus is on that kind of heavy hitting stuff that he's posting. But how important? Where does stories play a role in this? And then also, I am curious, Goldie, about that. If you know anything about stories coming to LinkedIn.
I do a little bit. So LinkedIn has been testing out stories, but actually only with the college demographic. So you have to be college age in college. They have specific like stickers and filters. So LinkedIn goes and they've kind of historically done this, gone pretty hard into the college age demographic, but trying to create their own little bubble on LinkedIn. So they have these things called LinkedIn campus editors, where people can be nominated at their school to become like a top LinkedIn person. But once again, it's just at your school. Then they have little conferences that bring together all the college age people who have huge presences are creating content on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn actually does have its own little universe that does have stories, but they're not trying to push they're not trying to push stories onto every demographic. They're actually keeping it very siloed onto either college age. They've also been testing stories within industry verticals, so real estate, finance professionals, etc. And they've been testing them in smaller markets, in different cities, to see if maybe that, once again, very siloed, very vertical driven stories does well. And they're, as far as I know, they haven't really pushed it widely or care to push stories widely on this platform. I think that's a really interesting concept. Because I know if we think about Facebook wants everything to be ubiquitous. Like Facebook wants everything to be everywhere all at once. Facebook wants every single person to use every single product on Facebook, including Facebook dating. Sorry, no thanks.
I'm not with that either. Yeah. Yeah, that's fast. I had no idea LinkedIn was experimenting with that. I think that's fascinating, and also the fact that it is, so curated is mind blow.
I mean, most of the platforms have experimented with some form of story, but I mean, stories really goes into like it's creating an immersive mobile experience for the user to consume on their mobile device, because most people, they're looking at the content in a full screen situation versus, in the square format. So what, I mean, like even YouTube has stories. I think Pinterest kind of pioneered it to some degree because a lot of their pins were a little bit longer. And so when you went into the early versions of the mobile app, you could see that the image in full screen on your phone. And then a lot of people started creating like longer pins because they knew that got more engagement on that platform. But when you look at places like Twitter, it doesn't kind of translate as well. I know they've been experimenting with something that's like stories, but more for news, but they haven't really rolled that out. And I doubt if they will, because it's just not organic for their platform. Even though more people are consuming a little bit more video over there, it's not a great lot. Like the places where I've seen stories be really successful is on Facebook. Facebook stories. When I was running a campaign over the summer, I was getting about 90% of my conversions from having a vertical video, mixed with the paid media, and having a short video, so about 15 seconds.
Okay.
So I feel that's because people just don't want to create Facebook stories. Like the everyday lay person is not thinking, I'm going to make a Facebook story. They're thinking, I'm going to make an Instagram story or go on Snapchat or go on TikTok, right?
Right.
And I feel like the average Joe is not like, man, you know what I really want to do today?
Make a Facebook story.
Make some Facebook stories.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised, because if you do post, because like sometimes when I post, like it's the first thing that when you log into Facebook, it's the first thing that's actually in your feed, as you'll see the stories bar. So people are actually clicking on it if you have an interesting enough picture.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's no doubt that folks are clicking on it, and also that Facebook, as you said, they're positioning it. I think this is just more so of this. We're in this zone of. I mean, looking at the evolution of all of the platforms, I've never seen anything kind of steal the zeitgeist as Instagram has. then I'm just never, like never. Even when MySpace was like, that was the only thing. Like still, Instagram is so much more popular. All right,
Let's get back to sparkling turning gifts.
Yeah, that's what we should be doing. All right, so here is my number 5. So I only have 7 of these. So here's my number 5. This is something that has been alluded to. So I'm hoping this could be the first one that we all agree on. Dun, dun, dun. 5 is that you don't feel when you read his Will Smith's content, when you're on his Instagram, his YouTube, you don't feel as if he's selling you a product or a service, right? I feel as if what's happened is that marketers have completely taken over social media. And even those of us who are not yet marketers, right, look at what the marketers do. So we're constantly sell. That's all it is, right? When I look at Will Smith's content, I don't feel like he's selling me. Like there's no piece of content where I feel like he's ramming a product or a service down my throat. It's always like a value add to me, an entertaining value add. Can we all agree to this point?
I'll let Mike start.
I mean, I'll be 100% honest. I don't follow that many celebrities on Instagram.
Okay.
I mean, or pretty much across any of my social media, because some of them are just not that interesting to me. Like the person I only follow, and I'm probably just looking at her pictures, is and again, that's for nostalgia purposes, is like a Janet Jackson or somebody like that. So I have to really be into what the what the person is putting out there for me to really click. But people I follow on social are like, they are the social media influencers, the people that make funny content. I'm looking, when I get on Instagram, I want to see like somebody in Bali having a nice cocktail, or or when I go on YouTube, I'm looking at, my feed is pretty much a mixture of wrestling and cooking videos.
Wrestling and cooking. But hold on for a second, though. Mike, I think you are agreeing with me. I felt like this was agreement. I felt this is real. This is the closest we've been here. Are we kind of agreeing a little bit?
I mean, so your point number 5 is that you feel like he's not selling you stuff. I'll agree with that. He's not. Looking at the feed, it's not really selling you a lot, but I don't know if that's the best strategy for him.
I love that he had to quantify the answer. It was like, I agree with you, but here are all the reasons why I don't want to give this answer.
Yeah, and on top of it, here's the reason why Will Smith is doing it wrong. He should be selling you something. Right. What do you think, Goldie?
How much did Gemini make at the box office?
Well, I'll tell you, Aladdin was over $1 billion. I'll tell you that much. And the
Gemini,
original,
I'm going to guess that Gemini Man did not make over $1 billion. Any bets? Any bets on the table?
No, not at all. Not at all. But Goldie, what do you think, Goldie? Do you feel like right? Are you agreeing with Mike and myself? But then also I guess the bigger question, the more important question for everyone listening and watching is, how important is that in our storytelling to not be in this constant sell mode, and what percentage of our time should be in that harder sell versus simply storytelling?
So Paul, I'm going to give you your first all 3 agreement. And yes, I don't believe that Will Smith is doing the hard sell. I mean, literally, with the example that Mike gave with Gemini Man, you look at that. Is he hard selling you on that? No. You are not seeing like 5 million Gemini Man pictures on there. I'm just saying, right? You go onto like, say, other actor pages on Instagram, and it like the first 5 posts are the last thing they were in. It's like the movie trailer clip. It is the movie poster. It is them on the set. Like looking like casual, but still really attractive usually. Yes. You get the formula. And he's not, what I really appreciate about Will Smith's content right now is in some ways he's not doing the exact formula of what an A-list actor typically does on Instagram. For better or for worse, he is just not doing that. And I think that is really nice and interesting. And I forget, what was that question that you asked, Paul?
What about, us as people who are building our brands, entrepreneurs, what percentage of our time should be selling versus storytelling? Because I feel like a lot of us sell constantly on social.
Once again, I'm probably the worst person to ask this because I literally write a column on storytelling for Forbes and personal branding. So I have to say that the majority of your time really should be on telling a beautiful story. Now, if that story, right, and I love when Mike referenced, I Love Lucy and the Vegemite spread or stuff that they were selling there, that was a really good brand integration that worked with the story. So I feel that if you want to do sales, to integrate that sales better into your storytelling, that is important because yes, we are all at the end of the day probably trying to sell something or the other, but to also have completely sales-free content. So content that is just really either interesting and or educational, I think is really helpful for growing a brand that also feels just so much less like marketing person. You hired a marketing agency to handle your social account. It's really obvious to everyone that you're being censored. Like, I think it's great to have an account that tells a story. That story is you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So
wait, I want to so if you look at like the beauty community, you can make the argument that almost all of their videos are sales related.
Right.
Because, they're testing, that's pretty much a product test. Just you're seeing the swatches, you're seeing how it lays on your face, you're seeing how it looks in the light, sees if it works with your skin tone. I mean, Jeffree Star is probably the biggest YouTuber from the beauty community out there. And, almost every video he does is almost a product test. Like even when he went to...
But it's educational. I will say that it is educational and entertainment focused. So even though you're selling a product, you're learning something, right? You're learning like, okay, when I have these 3 swatches of blue, this is the best shade of blue because of XYZ. Yeah. So I will argue that it's actually, because it's educational, since it's educational and selling, it still works. But if you were just like, here, these are 3 things to buy. Buy this one, buy this one, or buy this one, right, then that doesn't work.
Yeah. So
and then he went to the Taco Bell hotel, and that was fun to see. But again, it's a big advertisement.
Right.
Yeah.
But,
right.
I was very jealous. I couldn't go to that.
Right. But is that? I mean, this is an interesting kind of concept that you both are talking about, because so if it's entertaining, if it has some type of educational value wrapped into it, and maybe it has no educational value, maybe it's just purely just like incredibly entertaining, as long as it breaks the entertaining / educational threshold, it seems like what you all are saying is that then you could sell all day long. You could sell in every piece of content. So the most important thing that we should know in terms of our content is that it should be it should break a threshold of entertaining and or educational. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it has to be entertaining. You have to want to click on it and watch it, because watch time is probably one of the most important pieces for the YouTube algorithm, because they want you to stay on the platform as long as possible. And I know for me, I watch most of my content, that I consume on a daily basis on YouTube. So I'm on YouTube like almost all day, just looking at different videos or learning how to, like I've been doing veganism for the past couple of weeks. So I've been just like learning how to make different recipes, because being a vegan is very difficult.
Yes.
And trying to have, like my aunt just sent me a box of things that I can actually eat. Having that, like Goldie said, having the educational piece plus the entertainment is I think is kind of the sweet spot for a platform like YouTube.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. So I want to combine. I have a 6 and 7. I want to combine these because I think
Okay.
that if I combine them, I have a better chance at winning you over, Mike, and a better chance of you, Goldie, staying on my side. So I'm going to combine these. Right. What I've noticed about Will Smith is that his content, I think, exactly meets the persona that we know of Will Smith. But at the same time, what he does is he maintains a threshold of privacy, which I find to be interesting because, you know, you got Jada out there with Red Table Talk, and I mean, they talk about the most intimate things on the show. Will come on as a guest, but at the same time, there's a level of privacy that he keeps, and I think he maintains that with the notion of knowing that it would tarnish or change our perspective on him. For example, I've never seen him once walk through and say, all right, here's my home in Calabasas, or you know what, here's my my garage with my 16 Ferraris, you know, versus I've seen so many other, it seems like Instagram is the quickest place to say, look, here's my Lambo. Like, it's not even yours, right? But you want to do it as quickly as possible. Whereas what he does is he completely blocks that side of his life, which we know exists, right? It's got to exist. This dude's doing almost $30 million of film. We know it exists. And I think that's brilliant because what he's able to do is he's able to humanize himself. Being an A-list actor worth God knows how much money, right? He's able to actually humanize himself. So I think that's a brilliant play on his part. Do you agree?
Goldie.
Wow, I got thrown it again. You know, I have to say, I never thought about that. I never thought about Will Smith not including those elements on his social media presence, because I have to compare him to, once again, The Rock, right? Who really incorporates these very warm images of his home life. They're like, today my daughter drew on my fingers, right? And they just make you relate to him more. And I think Will Smith has taken a step back in that he's like, I'm warm and relatable as your favorite movie star. And he's not like, I'm warm and relatable and we could be friends. So I do think that he has taken a step back and he has kind of like that separation. He wants to be he wants to be Spider-Man. He wants to be your most friendly neighborhood superhero, but he's still a superhero. He's not one of the people.
Right. He's not your buddy. Yeah, that's cool.
Not your buddy.
Yeah, that's I think that's insightful. That's cool. Uh-oh, here we go.
I mean, I think when I look at his content, it's like, you know, hey, I'm a cool dad. And, you know, he does have a lot of pictures of, you know, his kids or him as a baby on his page. I mean, he's only posted 714, you know, pieces of content to his Instagram. And the only promotion he's done on there is really for the Aladdin movie. And then the rest of it is mainly like, you know, stuff from his home life or stuff from his birthday stunt that he did and things like that. So I think, you know, he is very, I guess, relatable, but he does talk a lot about his family, you know, because that is a big part of his life.
Yeah.
But I think the whole family as a whole, I don't think they're not really like super heavy social media users either. I think like outside of like Red Table Talk, you know, I never see any content from Jada. You know, I see a couple of posts here or there, like when Jaden has new music out. But I think the whole family is very kind of private to a degree. You know, they let you know what they want you to know.
Sure. But what about this whole notion of, you know, what I feel like he's doing? Because one of the things that this conversation has actually taught me is I have no idea what the hell Will Smith's goal is with social media. But I know he's spending a god-awful amount of money, right? Has an entire team doing this. He's got daily content, right? And he's growing his base. In terms of his follower count, incredible. Over 100 million people across different platforms in the last 3 years. But why, right? One of the things I feel like he's doing in a way is in a lot of his content, he's giving us, insight and philosophies around success of life, right? So the success that you could apply to life, you could apply to being a parent, you could apply to, if you want to be an actor, actress, you could apply to your business. So he's selling, in essence, he's kind of selling this pseudo, instructional on success. But he's doing it completely different than I see most people who are selling success. They're like, look, here's my jet. I'm jumping out into my Bentley. Here's my driver. Here all these things that is probably not even theirs. But that's been the game plan. That's been the track record of how to sell success. Will Smith is like, no. I'm not like, you don't even see any of that. So I guess my question here is, how important is that as individuals who may be starting a business, like launching a business, growing our personal brand? How much flash should we be showing or not? For example, one of the things that I've been conscious about, and I think this is probably why I saw this on Will Smith's account, is I've never once posted my car. I think once I did something, like I was skateboarding and I was doing this ollie near one of the, and I was like, oh no, this is bad, right? So ever since then, I was like, I'm not doing it. That's not where I want to go. So I'm conscious about that. I feel like he is conscious about that too. I guess maybe my question is God me? Is that something that I should be conscious about? Should I be, hey guys, here's my car? Talk to me about that, because I think there's a lot of confusion right now, especially on Instagram, and I see this popping up on LinkedIn about what we should be including in our stories and what we shouldn't.
I think all right, so Dolomite just came out. I think it's a great example of, creating a persona that you want to sell in whatever space that you're trying to sell in. So when you look at Rudy Ray Moore and what he did, he created, the Dolomite character and took it across the country and made it successful through the different media platforms that he knew he could master, which was records, and then eventually moving into movies. But he created that persona, based upon having the different conversations with the homeless in his community. But he created a Pacific persona that was very much different from the real man who he was. And he used that to his advantage to get to where he was. So I think as a creator, you have the opportunity to create a persona that can work in these social spaces. Because a lot of these people that we're following on social media are very much kind of crazy characters. Like, going back to someone like a Jeffree Star, he is kind of, he's insane. Or looking at Shane, or looking at all these different people out there. A lot, they're showing you the life that you would love to live, and giving you like the inside scoop to, what is it like to be a multimillionaire makeup mogul? Or what is it like to be a multimillionaire content creator? Or with Will Smith, I think he has the opportunity to show us what it is like to be, a multimillionaire movie star who is 51. And Will Smith has to do these things in social, because now he's competing with a whole new set of superstars out there who are much younger than he is, and competing for different roles now. And if he wants to remain relevant to, the casting agents, they want to see that he has a following. He can bring in a youth audience. He can still bring in his audience from the past.
Right.
So all of these different people are very much important to having that. So I think having that persona, is important. And it's something that I think if, we having a persona, we call it having a social media voice, so that could be something that he focuses in on for his social media strategy. Like, what's my particular voice? Because this is my goal, which is to remain relevant. So I'm attractive to, the casting agent.
Right. Right. So I hear you saying though that it could perhaps help him to show us a little bit of the Will Smith on the private jet. You know, here I am on my yacht, and let me show you around a little bit. You know, some stuff that okay.
He does do that. I mean, like he was on a boat and he was showing like, you know, here I am on the boat with the family having some prosecco and eating, you know.
But I'm talking about like what Diddy does. Like here, I'm gonna send out my drone so you could see, you know, all 5 levels of my yacht. Right, so come back. Like it seemed. Are you saying that he needs to, or he could sprinkle some of that in? And
yeah.
Okay,
he does do that, but it's not, you know, it's not very frequent. I mean, like, you know, DJ Khaled, that was his whole thing.
Yeah.
Was like, you know, here's me pouring champagne into a bowl of fruit and eating that for breakfast.
Yeah.
And the kids love that on Snapchat.
Right.
But, you know, again, Will Smith appeals to, you know, over 35 plus demographic. And so, you know, they want to see a little something different for him. So I think that's where the inspirational stuff works for him.
Okay. So what do you think, Goldie? Should I be out here? Should I go outside and post my car? Is that what I need to do to get some love?
I feel like you post who you want to attract, right? So if you post about that lifestyle of, DJ Khaled, like eating cereal with champagne in the morning, you're going to attract the people who aspirationally want to have that lifestyle. But if you post the more down to earth things, then you attract, I think, the people who want just to have maybe a normal life plus, if that makes sense, right? Okay. So they understand that there is maybe the jet involved, maybe the nice car, maybe the champagne on your cereal in the morning, but you also don't need to show that off. And I think that there are so many, I find the influencer lifestyle so funny because there are so many incredibly, insanely wealthy people out there who never post their insane, wild lifestyle on social media ever, right? Because they don't want the attention, they don't need the attention. And I think a lot of that is what kind of attention do you want to garner? And if you want just the numbers, right? Just those likes, just all that, then yes, because that's what's popular right now. However, that's not to say like 5 years from now, that might still be the same popular content. So you might be going real hard on like posting in front of your, not Maserati, what am I thinking of? Starts with a D, but you might be posting in front of like your super luxury car now. And let me tell you, it's getting very old to me very quickly because you see so many people posing in front of cars they don't own, as you said before, with stacks of money that aren't real. That's all play money, honey. And you're seeing a lot of fake wealth just because that's what's that's popular. That's the trend. People want to be wealthy. But as you get into, maybe we'll have different trends, more trends, people will start to want to shift and post that kind of content. So I personally think being wealthy is a trend right now. So that jet life, people renting out half carved out fake jets to post a picture of them in a private jet that isn't even a real jet. That stuff to me feels like that is a bubble waiting to be burst. And it will be. And so if that's what you're going all in on right now, great, because it will get you the likes. It will get you that audience. But I don't know that it's actually a super long-term play because audience tastes change.
Yeah. I hear that. You know, it's crazy. I know folks, I mean, because of the show that I do in the UK, where we have celebs, you know, on the show, man, I've seen some like wild things done just for the follow. But what's interesting is behind closed doors, what they're saying is, man, but you know, my engagement isn't there, right? The long-term engagement isn't there because you're right. People will like just because, wow, that's interesting. You're on the wing of a jet. That's interesting. But when you really find out who the person is, what they value, then it's okay. Let me unfollow or the algorithm takes care of it because you're not even engaging on the post anymore.
Yeah, and I know people always talk about Oprah. And there's like this wave, I think, this new wave towards Oprah that's like, well, Oprah is Oprah. Of course, she's always going to get that level of engagement and attention. but she has definitely built a very specific brand that's very purpose driven. So even though she's like, I'm at my mansion in who knows where
in
on
Hawaii.
like my 5,000, her in Hawaii on my 50 million acres, however many acres she actually owns, there's still this homey, down to earthness about that.
Right.
And that is captivating.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right, so last question for you both. I don't think this is going to be hard at all. At first, I thought this is going to be a hard question because they both love Will Smith. But now you've been poking holes in his strategy this entire time. So now I know this will be easy. The question is this. The question is Will Smith is watching right now, or he's listening right now. There you go. What is one piece of social media advice you would give him that also, here's the hook, that also applies to us who are conscious about our personal brand on social? So what should Will Smith be doing differently, or should he start doing, that we, as people who are building our social brand, should also be doing?
I'll let Yoda go first on this one.
Okay.
I will say one piece of advice that I would give Will Smith plus everyone else is to, just keep experimenting. A lot of the platforms have matured, but also some of the platforms are new. So keep experimenting and having fun and playing around. And I think that's why people are enjoying Will Smith's content, is because, at the end of the day, it is fun to watch, some of the more, silly things that he's posting, that don't have anything to do with his movie or anything that he might be pushing. But I think having fun is like one of the elements that bigger brands miss. Is that, they're pushing out something just because, we have a sale or Black Friday is coming or something like that. But, I think the content, in order for it to actually be engaging, it has to have some kind of element of fun and entertainment to it.
Got it. Wow, look at that. And he complimented Will Smith. Did you hear that compliment? He said why people are enjoying his content. Look at that compliment. What do you think, Goldie?
Oh man, how do I even follow that up? I'm going to follow that up because that was so broad and lovely and absolutely true in the universe. I'm going to follow it up with something super specific.
Okay.
Something that I've seen a lot of people not do, but it's super important. And also Will Smith does not do this all the time on his content to the best of my knowledge, which is please use captions.
Oh, wow.
On your content.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That has a lot of talking. Just because most people consume content on their mobile phones or their iPads or wherever, and not everyone is listening, right? They're not listening to what you're saying. They're watching the video, sometimes on silent because they're at work. They don't want their bosses to know they're watching that YouTube video or whatever. So captioning to me is one of those things that's not really the sexiest thing to talk about, but is so helpful when you're growing a presence, is to caption as many of your videos that have talking as possible to make them more accessible for everyone, first of all, but second of all, because once again, a lot of people watch content on their phones. Yeah. So make it easy for them to watch.
Man, I love that one. I mean, so simple, so true. Will Smith, please, if you're watching this, caption your stuff. And as Mike said, continue to experiment because we love you on all these platforms. I think you're the greatest content creator on social media today. That's what I believe. Actually, I think Will Smith is the greatest content creator that's ever lived, but that's a whole nother story. But Mike, Goldie, this has been a very insightful conversation. Could you tell everyone how to find you? If they want to learn more, know more, read more from you, where do they go?
I guess I'll start. So you can find me always on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/Goldie, or on Twitter at Goldie Chan, CHAN, or on Instagram at Goldie Cylon, CYLON, because I love Battlestar Galactica. I'm a huge nerd. And you can always Google, actually right now, if you Google personal branding, my articles are the first ones that show up on Google search. So feel free to Google personal branding or Google Goldie Chan and read some of my amazing articles.
That's heavy. You just Google personal branding. That's all you have to do, and you'll find me. That's heavy. That's awesome, Goldie. Thank you. And then we've got Mike. the Jedi, Yoda, Will Smith is kind of all right by me street. No. Mike, how do folks find you?
So you can find me pretty much on any social platform at Mr. Mike Street.
There you go. There you go. Well, lady, gent, thank you.
Yeah.